It is my great pleasure to host today one of the flipped classroom experts of Łódź University of Technology, Janet Frizzarin. Hello and welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Please tell us about your experience with the flipped classroom model.
Oh, that might be a long answer, but I started my career as an academic by teaching face-to-face, and in my area of expertise originally, which was graphic design. 2 years in, back in 2010, I had an opportunity to start teaching fully online. On my first day of the job, I got given these printout folders, which for me, I couldn't reconcile an online course with physical materials. So having the design background, I immediately thought, how can I make this experience better for the students by leverage the digital space technology to support their learning. So I started by redesigning my own course, and immediately we started seeing really good results of the student engagement with my course, and the institution then took notice and they asked me if I would be willing to help other teachers to change their courses as well. So that's how my career progressed. I started as an academic, moved into instructional designer, then program manager, and in the past 12 years, pretty much I became an expert in anything related to digital learning and improving learning experiences.
And we know that in the flipped model, the roles of the teacher and the student are quite different compared with the traditional model. Mm-hmm. How do you see the role of the teacher?
Yeah, that's definitely a need for the teacher to really think about how they perform the practice of teaching differently. I feel that there becomes a bit of a two-part approach. To guide the students through the materials that they have to prepare pre-class or fully online when they are preparing to come to the classroom experience, the academic then becomes more of a guide on the side, prepares the content and guide them through the students to let them acquire the knowledge as they go. But it is also very important that then in the classroom space, the academic positions themselves as the specialist, and it manages to connect the content that is happening online or outside the classroom with the activities that are planned for the classroom. So the student can have this holistic experience and understanding that all is connected, they are not two separate parts, and that also gives the academic the opportunity in the classroom to shine in the sense of their area of expertise, bringing their learning and that content to life with real life and real practice for the students to engage with.
So how do you prepare your classes, and do you think that the preparation of such a class requires more time than in the traditional education model?
That can depend quite a lot in terms of the time of preparation, especially I think if you're doing for the first time, probably I would say it would take more time, but there is a benefit long term. The way I like to approach the design of the courses that moved into the flip model is I like to use a constructive alignment approach. First of all, looking at the learning objectives, then making sure that the learning objectives are at the right level for the students and they are at the right level of complexity of the learning that I would like them to have through their course. The second thing that we looked into is then matching assessments to the learning objectives. And the reason why it's backwards, you would say you probably should think about your content first. I actually look in the assessment first because the assessment drives the learning. The students need to know what they will be expected to perform to know how to prepare for it. So if you write really good assessments, you can really drive the experience and drive how the students engage with your course differently, and make sure that the assessments are aligned with those learning objectives that we already worked. Once that is done, it makes so much easier to prepare the order of your classes, the session plan, the material that goes in the pre-class activities and the materials that happen in class, and how you structure, because then you have a chance to prepare activities that the students can perform and work with you in the classroom that prepare them to be ready for the assessment submission, give them the chance to practice, receive feedback from us as the academics, but from their peers as well, and then engage with that content in a practical, active way.
And since it is crucial for students to do pre-class activities, I wonder how you motivate your students to do that.
Well, that's definitely a very important question, and if you can't make that work, definitely the model will not be successful. So I have a few tips that I see that it works quite well for the students. I think the first thing is to be very clear at the very beginning of the class, the subject, to what is the expectation that you as an academic have for the students, and the students understand what their part that they play in the engagement with the course. So it's important to make sure that this is clear. The second thing that I normally suggest academics to do is to create a structure that is repetitive. In a sense, the students know exactly what is coming. So I recommend that you agree what a time frame normally you would expect the student to engage with the content pre-class. So I would say 15-30 minutes of preparation, and let them know that every beginning of the class there will be something that will require them to use that knowledge. So they know that they have to engage, they know how long they have to spend on that with that content, and how they are going to be using the knowledge in class pre-class. The third thing that is a good strategy is to attach to those pre-class activities some sort of low risk marks. So even if it's 2% of the final grade, that if you tell the students, if you engage with the pre-class materials and participate on the activities pre and during the class, you get this extra mark. Independently if you get it right or wrong, that also encourages them to engage and participate, because you would be surprised what the students can do for 2% on their marks. Last but not least, what I really say to the academics is, it doesn't matter what happens, even if none of your students had done the pre-class materials, do not delete the lecture. Because once you do that once, they will always do that back to you. So the first class will probably be very awkward, where you expected them to prepare or to be ready with the content, and you had activities planned, they won't be able to follow up, so it will be really difficult. The second class, you will notice that at least half of the students now clued up that if they don't prepare, they will not perform well in the classroom. And then after that, they will get into a flow of, actually, I really have to engage with the content before, otherwise I will not be able to engage in the classroom.
So I think it's fair to say that the flipped model requires students to take the responsibility for the learning process. And from your experience, would you say that students are ready for this challenge? And how can teachers help them so that they don't feel overwhelmed by this responsibility?
You absolutely captured that correctly. For the students, it is a change of mindset, especially when we think the students that left high school to join the university. It's already a different way of learning for them, because high school is normally really structured, and the university, they actually have to take ownership of that learning pathway for them. So a few things that I mentioned before can help. So I think having that clear structure and the clear expectations from the students from the beginning, reminding them often that it is part of their learning journey, that they actually engage in the process, because we as academics, we understand the difference it makes for the learning when the students actually have the opportunity to think about, not only recollect knowledge. We want them to engage and learn by doing, learning by applying the knowledge and the skills into practical opportunities and receiving feedback for them. So clarifying this early on from the beginning definitely helps, and reinforcing that message as much as possible. So that will definitely make your students participate more and understand why are you doing this and see value out of this.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective, and also for sharing some great tips for other teachers who are planning to introduce the flipped model in their classrooms.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.